the inescapable God. The inescapable God. And this is traditionally a psalm that is attributed to David. Psalm 139, 1 through 19. It reads like this. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light around me become night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you. For it was you who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. That I know very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them as yet existed. How weighty to me are your thoughts, O God! How vast is the sum of them! I try to count them. They are more than the sand. I come to the end. I am still with you. So, for the next 3 to 4 weeks, I am going to be preaching through a series I have titled, The Best Sermon I've Ever Preached. Which admittedly sounds probably a bit odd, but that's also my aim when I'm titling sermons. I hope that it causes you to think, or it at least piques your interest in some way. And so for the sermon series, I'm not trying to be vague or mysterious. Look at that little graphic. Wow. They've got a beard and everything, you know? I don't know who got that, but that's cool. Wow, sorry, that threw me off right there, you know? I got to find where I'm at. Okay. Well, my goal in the next couple of weeks is to do exactly what the sermon title says. All right, so you know what I'm aiming to do. I'm aiming to preach the best sermon that I've ever preached week after week, which is a lofty goal, I think. But naturally, the question is, why is he doing this? What's the point? Truthfully, I've been struggling for a number of weeks capturing what I call the sermon that's beneath the sermon. And our liturgical calendar is important, right? It helps frame our community life, and it really works to move us along, and it's a good thing. The other side of the coin is exactly that, though. It moves us along. And I never want to be in a place where I get caught up in the current and miss what I really should be aiming at in my core. So here's the sermon series. I'm going to be trying to drill down into what is most important, what is most needed. And I'm going to try to unearth some of the sacred underpinnings of our faith. That's a really broad thing to say, isn't it? And it's quite the task. But I'm going to attempt to get to the core of all this, much for my sake as for yours. So maybe it'll sound a little bit different than sermons that you've heard in the past, but that's good. Hopefully it'll be refreshing for you. Now, this passage that we read in Psalm 139, I chose it because it embodies a feeling that I always come back to when I feel lost. Not lost in a way that I feel like I'm going to hell or that I'm deep in sin. It's not that I'm feeling shame per se, and that's important because religious shame works really great for behavior modification in the short term, right? It fixes the symptoms, but waving hell over someone's head will only ever make them do just enough to escape it. It's not the recipe for a meaningful or fulfilling spiritual life. So when I say that I'm feeling lost, what I mean sometimes is that I feel disoriented. And I don't know if you know someone like this, but it's like when you set out to do a project on the weekend, and maybe you are this person. You set out to do a project on the weekend, and you got to go and do it in your garage. And so you get to your garage, and you're ready to work on it, and you say, oh man, wow, it's really messy in here. I can't work on my project while this is a mess. I'm going to clean it up just real quick. And so, then you start cleaning it up, and you're working hard, and you're moving boxes around, and you pull out one of these boxes, and you see it's just been chewed apart by mice. And the more you unearth, the more you realize, man, I have a mice infestation. And so you say, okay, I'm going to go look for my mouse traps, and I'm going to set them up real quick. And then you go into the house, and you say, man, I could have swore I had mouse traps, and they were right here. But apparently you don't have any. You can't find them. So you run down to the store real quick. But they don't have any at the local store, right? So now you've got to get in the car and drive all the way to the larger store that's farther away. And while you're there, your spouse calls and asks, hey, since you're there, can you pick up a couple things for me? And so you start shopping and you pick up a couple things, and texts just keep coming through because they keep finding more things that they need. And so your list grows longer, and you're confused. If you're like me, you don't know which aisle is which, and so you just walk down every aisle, and you hope that you're getting everything. And so before you know it, you've got a cart full of things, and you're in the checkout line, and then you go out, and it's cold, and so you're trying to move really fast, and you load everything up in the vehicle, and you head home, and you unload everything, only to realize you forgot to buy mousetraps. And now you're thinking, I don't want to drive all the way back because I've already wasted so much time. But you finally have a free weekend, and this really needs to get done, and now there's no way that you're going to have enough time to finish it before the end of the night, but you won't have another free weekend for a while, and you're disoriented. What do? You're several steps away from this, really what you thought was a simple task, your aim, the thing that's supposed to be straightforward. I have a free weekend, I'm going to do this project. And now somehow you're 40 steps away in a house, you don't have mouse traps, and your wife is on the phone. And it's easy to feel like this spiritually, believe it or not. In fact, it's so easy that I often completely forget the original aim that I had in the first place. You look up from a pew sometimes several months later, maybe even years into the future, and you're hit on the head and you go, I can't even remember why I'm here. And try as you might, you can trace it back to, you can't seem to trace it back to any type of motivation. You could search it, and you're trying to think, what's this main reason? Why am I even here? And you realize slowly that participation in church slowly turned into this obligatory event on the ever-winding list of things that you've got to get done before you can what? I know this really well because that's me. You're saying, man, he described that really well. I wonder how he knows that. Okay, you're not alone. And so I want to say this. Listen, I don't blame anyone, and I'm sure we have people that we can think of in our mind that used to sit in these pews and are no longer here, but I don't blame anyone who has enough audacity to come to the genuine conclusion that all of this isn't fulfilling, or it doesn't feel purposeful. I don't blame them. And you think, this is the pastor saying it. Wow, we're in trouble. But my question is, why would anyone do anything arbitrarily or without reason? And maybe there is a reason, but sometimes it's not a good one. The traditional motivation might be, do it or go to hell. Or do it or you're grounded. Or do it so you don't upset somebody that you love. And those are secondary needs. I need to get rid of my guilt. I need to avoid punishment. I need to have peace in my family. But those are needs of appeasement. They're not needs of fulfillment. Okay, and so the other side is that you come because maybe it fulfills the need for friendship, or it fulfills the need for community. And I say, okay, right? Nobody would say that's a wrong thing, but I think there might be more efficient ways to do that, believe it or not. Just think about all the advancements that we've had in communication over the last 10 years. I can call, I can FaceTime, I can text, I can get on social media. All those ways are easier, and if you don't want to do that, you can still go to the bar. You can go over to somebody's house. You can go join a gym. You can play bingo with friends. You can do a lot of things. And I think those things are a little bit more efficient. All those ways are more convenient than really showing up to church here and sitting through board meetings, you know? Everybody was supposed to laugh there because you've probably sat in on a board meeting. More than one. It's not, what we're doing here is not very efficient. I mean, just think about it. You're going to sit here for 20 to 30 minutes, hopefully not 30, just listening to me, not really saying a word, not talking. You're not socializing. Or as Christians, we like to use the word fellowshipping. I've never used that word outside of the church, but we're fellowshipping, right? And we can say, okay, there's something important there, right? We can feel it. There's an importance to community and friendship. Those aren't particularly bad reasons to come to church, per se, but I don't think we would all say that the church is just purely a social club, right? And maybe that's the reason why many people still go to church. Maybe that's the reason why you're still here. Or many people that you know why they still go to church, because they formed meaningful and lasting relationships with people. But that's also probably the reason why so many people don't go to church anymore. Because if you think about it, if I'm a college student and I'm heading off to college for the first time, and I'm in a different city, and I look up my local UCC church, if I walk in, it's probably not bursting at the seams with my primary social demographic. You know what I mean? So it can't entirely be about friendships or community. So it may meet a communal need for many people, and truth be told, this is kind of the marketing thrust for many churches. Come to our church. We have a great teen program. We have a great Sunday school program. We have a men's Bible study. We have a women's Bible study with childcare. That's an important one. Or come to this church because we're clearly conservative or clearly progressive, and if that's what you believe, you'll find meaningful friends here, and you'll have a community of people. And here's the thing, right? It's actually mentally and emotionally beneficial to have friendships and a community and surrounded by people that you can have genuine, open conversations with that believe what you believe. That's a natural human instinct, believe it or not. So you sit back and you go, okay, so is that it? Is that the key? Is that our highest need as humans? And in that, I think that we are very close. We're so close. Dangerously close, in fact, to what is highest, to what is most meaningful, to the one goal that all other goals emanate from. But why is it dangerously close, though? Well, if you think about it, Nazi Germany met all of those communal qualifications. And they really thought they were aiming at what was highest. They really did. And so we might say, oh, well, okay. Well, it's not good enough to just have friends and a community and people to lean on, even people that genuinely, selflessly love one another and are willing to die for one another, because that could easily describe the Third Reich or Jim Jones's cult or the KKK. And so you might say, okay, yes, community is important, but only if they're aimed at the right thing. Would you agree? And here we go. We're getting somewhere with this now. What does that mean? The right thing. If they're aimed at the right thing. And that's where people really start to disagree. And if you know the right thing, why would you want to do it? And maybe you think, oh, these questions answer themselves. Come on, Pastor Russell. We all want to do the right thing, but think about it for a moment. Is this okay? I'm just asking. I'm breaking the third wall here. It's probably not the traditional sermon, obviously, but I'm just trying to be transparent with you. I'm just trying to be real. I'm trying to figure some things out. Because somewhere along the way, there was a profound disconnect. Somewhere along the way, church stopped being a place where people's most important need was met. And since then, Christian churches have largely been running on fumes, I would say, settling into this weird, pseudo-capitalistic model of church that cyclically perpetuates itself with little aim beyond self-preservation. And so, as a pastor, I sit there sometimes and I shake myself and I think really hard. I ask myself, I say, wait, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing again? And I'm overcome with this feeling that I've forgotten something, that I'm missing something that's really important. I'm preaching a sermon, yes. I'm leading Bible study, yes. I'm showing up to work and I'm working with Kelsey, yes. I'm encouraging people to come back to church, yes. Check, all down the line. But I just know that I'm missing something really important. And then I'm pulled back to Psalm 139. And I find myself, for some reason, yearning to sit in the seat of the psalmist. To be so convinced, to be so full and overflowing with wonder and love and gratitude. I'm almost jealous of him. Because what he's describing is something that is so real. It's such a beautiful psalm. But also, it's something that feels so foreign to me. I feel like a third-party observer when I read it. And the closer I get to the end of the psalm, the more apparent it becomes that although I can say I know many things, this man knows something that I don't. What does he know? He knows that he is known. He knows that God sees him, that God is all around him, that he couldn't escape God if he tried. And then I realized what all this is about, or at least what it's supposed to be about. It is supposed to be a place where we are reminded that God knows. God knows me. God knows you. And that is our deepest, most important need. To be known. To have someone peer into the deepest, darkest, most intimate corners of our heart. Places of repression and shame and fear and embarrassment. Everything that exists behind the facade that we present to every single person in life. The most broken and tender parts of ourselves. What we want more than anything is to have our soul cracked open and to be met with love. Not just a mental assent or a confession of the lips, not a convincing argument of God's existence. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a relationship. I'm not really talking about a relationship with our idea of God. I'm not talking about a rationalization or a correct ideological belief. I'm talking about a relationship with God that can't be described with words or poetry or songs or images. Not because it doesn't exist, but because, like the psalmist says, such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it. We don't come here so that we can be convinced that God is real. We come to participate in what is most real. More real than anything that we do out there. That is what I've been missing. That is what I'm supposed to be doing. That is why I sit in the pew, not to learn, not to sing, not to avoid hell, not to appease someone I love, not even to socialize. We do it because we are desperately desiring to be known, whether we know it or not. Because you can get as close to someone that you love as humanly possible. You can think that you told them all of your secrets. But there will always exist deep within you a shadow that covers up thoughts and experiences and fragments of the self that you yourself couldn't touch if you tried with all of your might. And I'm here to remind you that that hidden part exists within you. How do I know that? Because it exists in me. But I'm also here to remind you that it doesn't have to go unseen. It doesn't have to go untouched. You don't have to be unknown. And really, that's what love is, isn't it? That is my aim. One that I have often lost, even as recently as the last weeks, the last months. And I confess that to you because I myself want to be seen. For all that I am, the good and the bad, the beautiful and the ugly, the saint and the sinner, I want to be seen in all of it. And that's probably the best sermon I could ever preach right there. Straight from the mouth of a hypocritical, egotistical, selfish father, husband, and pastor. But also from the mouth of a painfully hopeful and persistent man who freely confesses his uncertainty. You know, we're told to love our enemies. And I think that's probably because that's the only way that we could ever fully love ourselves. That's all I got. Amen. Going forward, what I'm not saying is that every time that we come to church, we ought to be all weepy and overshare and make people feel really uncomfortable. That's not what I'm trying to say. So don't read it that way. No, but I do want to encourage you to reflect, not only as we sing today, but throughout the week. There is a God who knows the deepest, darkest crevices of your soul. Embrace that. Embrace it. Take comfort in being known and being loved in it all. Good and bad, because isn't that what it means to be a child of God? Would you reflect on that as we prepare to stand and sing today?